Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Valeria and this is the Off-Road Ranch, as usual. I told you recently that I bought a Jeep and I did the inspection of it. You can find the link to this video in the top right corner. I need a Jeep so that I can go to my ranch and do land improvement and construction there. If you are for the first time on my channel, then in the upper right corner you can find a link to my introductory There video. So you can make for yourself a full picture of my project. Today I'm going to inspect the bottom of the car in the garage and make a full list of work that is required today. Since my business is not going very well, the main repair of the car is postponed. This will lead to the fact that the list of required work may increase. I don't have a garage to store a car and I don't have money for repairs, especially now the priority is to work on the purchased land. Fortunately, my friends helped me to conduct an inspection in the inspection hall and I was able to film the inspection of the Jeep partially. But in the previous video, I talked about the fact that due to power outage, my motherboard and all the devices connected to my laptop burned out and I was left without raw data. I will be able to show only a small part of inspection shoot on my phone. However, it will be interesting because I have a lot of work to do and I will do everything myself. I will inspect the body from below, localize the presence of rust, check the condition of cardons, drives and hoses. After that, I will list the flaws that I thought during the inspection in the video about buying a car, summarize it, analyze and make the preliminary list of work. During the time that I drive it between garages, gas stations, gas equipment services and other places, it has already shown its shortcomings. But it still needs time, because it hasn't been ridden for almost a year and a half. The first thing we see is that everything is covered with a thick layer of rust. There is a lot of it. The car stood for a year and a half without service on the street, and I also had to store it on the street, because I don't have the opportunity to rent a garage. Spars, shock absorbers, springs, transfer case, all the tubes, cardons are rusty. Muffler burned out partially at the joints. This is a nightmare. Calipers and shock absorber springs are also all rusty. However, the calipers themselves don't need to be changed at the moment. During the drive for a month, the car performed itself well. Nothing rusted inside, which means that water didn't get into the grubber roofs of the calipers and they didn't rot. There are traces of some kind of anti-corrosion coating, but it is not clear when and how it was applied. And in general, the entire bottom of the car is covered with rust. Rear brake lines are in order. I replaced them as the brake hose was almost torn. Therefore, the brake system is in perfect order. Nothing flows anywhere, there are no cracks. Otherwise, driving with a faulty brake system would be prohibited. At first glance, the car looked more or less normal, but now we see that some hoses are just hanging somewhere. I haven't looked yet what it is, but there is nothing to connect them to. The car was obviously not looked after, and it will be necessary to figure out where unnecessary hoses, tubes and sensors are. There is a confusing extra electrics, which sometimes just lies or hangs chaotically and is not connected to anything, and there is nothing to connect them to. In the previous video, I talked that after rains, I found a large puddle in the bottom of the front passenger seat. A car like that can absorb up to 1.5 tons of water. I don't know how much it weighs now, but because of the water and the lack of tightness in the car, now it is not just a wet floor. To my terrible chagrin and disappointed, I thought that the bottom in that place was so rusted and rotten that water began to seep through. There is so much water that has leaked that rust has eaten through cracks, and now water oozes out of the cabin. There can be no doubt that the car has been taking water for a very long time, and the rust gradually corroded the body. At the moment, it is definitely impossible to carry heavy tools and materials in the car, especially in difficult places. This creates very big problems during the repair. In addition, there is condensation that also accumulates under the hood, which I showed in the previous video. Perhaps this happens for the same reasons. I tried to understand why this could happen, and I think that water may be getting in through the dashboard. Also, the windshield could be partially peeled off. Since it is cracked, it must be replaced anyway. Another reason is that water flows through the fender or the quarter panel of the door. This is also possible, since the right front door hinges are placed wrong. I also mentioned that there are electrical issues. For example, the speakers intermittently turn off, the diagnostic display gives errors, and sometimes the headlights do not work properly. The problem with the headlights is now resolved, and I talked about it before, but I still need to sort out the electrics. When buying a Jeep, there was no second cardan and only front-wheel drive was available. Now there are two universal joints in the Jeep. Both were checked on the diagnostic stand and after installation were checked for the crank angle. Both have shown their performance. The transfer box is also perfect. During the leak test, it was found that the oil level is at the required level. There are no leaks anywhere. In general, no leaks of technical fluids and oil were found. During the inspection, I found that one wheel doesn't have a wheel cap. There is also no mudguard to protect against dirt. This is a trifle, but it also needs to be written on the to-do list. In the first car inspection video, I told that I didn't like the sound of the engine. I was right. It turned out to be a cracked exhaust manifold. It is impossible to shoot it from the outside, but there is a crack at the joints where two pipes converge into one. When I bought a Jeep, there were no any cracks. Most likely there was a straw blow into the car, and I think that it is associated with a dent in the bull bar. If the impact was strong, then a small crack could appear due to the pressure. Perhaps it became larger when the car was removed from the tow truck or at some other time. The metal could burst under minimal load. Even if I had high-quality equipment for filming, I would be able to show the crack only after the car was completely disassembled, since the exhaust manifold is quite low. But I was able to shoot and restore a video of how the engine sound changes at different speeds. Okay. As I said, I carried out part of the work and part of the inspection on the street, since I don't have a garage. Here, in daylight from a different angle, you can also see how rusty the car is. There are also issues with the rear door on the driver's side. It either opens normally or it opens only from the inside. So, in any case, it is clear that there will be a lot of body work. A lot of work awaits me. Sandblasting, welding, putting, priming, and so on. But we will talk about it much later. Car body also includes repair and installation of doors, replacement of hinges and replacement of door handle return spring if necessary, repair of the trunk lid lock, replacement of the windshield, sorting out window opening and closing mechanisms, as they work at different speeds on different windows and sometimes wedge or this. But most importantly, it is necessary to restore the impermeability of the car body. Body work will take approximately 1 million years. In addition to bodywork, there are also those problems that were identified during the inspection in the previous video. This includes the replacement of the drive belt, the performance of the seat belts, the replacement of calipers and anthers if necessary, and other works. After bodywork, I need to deal with the electrician, namely, seal all wire connection in the right places, check all blocks of all fuses and relays, and deal with minor problems, such as heating the driver's seat or adjusting the front passenger seat to the passenger. Also, it is necessary to check the speedometer and odometer, to restore the audio system, and to restore the normal operation of the central lock. It is necessary to eliminate errors in the diagnostic display and make sure that all lighting equipment, both inside and outside, is working and properly configured. And that is what applies only to current existing vehicle systems. Given the modernization, there will be more of them, and this will also need to be kept in mind. It is not clear yet whether there is a need for sound and vibration isolation, since now the increased sound conductivity is due to existing problems. But the Grand Cherokee ZJ model is generally underdeveloped in soundproofing and vibration isolation, and I even know a few people who changed ZJs to new generation for a quieter ride. Perhaps by the time I start repairing the car, the engine will also need to be overhauled or replaced. I hope that this won't be needed, but I can see the full picture later. It is necessary to make new interior decoration in trim, but nothing is clear here yet. It is not clear what to do with the seats. They do not look aesthetically pleasing at all, but given the fact that I will be carrying materials in the car, it may be meaningless to spend money on reupholstering the interior with new quality leather. But so far, there are no answers to this. Of course, a complete maintenance must be carried out one more time after all work. Checking the brake system, the cooling system, suspension, replacing all necessary fluids, checking all relays one more time, and so on. And it is worth considering well-known breakdowns and shortcomings of a particular model. But these are only those works that relate to the repair. Taking into account the modernization, the list and order of work may be different, since some work needs to be done in advance or in parallel. But I will be able to understand what kind of modernization, order and list is needed much later. To begin with, I need to go to the site and evaluate the quality of the access roads and the land on the site itself. I will be able to understand how I will need to upgrade the car only after I understand the situation on the site. In addition, one of the first steps of modernization is to determine how I see my car. And only after that, I will be able to start designing in computer programs. I will definitely make a video about how I see the modernization of my Jeep and tell you what and why I will do. But the way I see the car is just a visualization. A well thought out upgrade requires not imagination but detailed calculations, and they will take a lot of time since I need to think a lot. Furthermore, I don't have a garage, and just a pit or a lift is not enough for the upcoming work. Body work, welding, painting require separate rooms and technological conditions. Therefore, I will need to decide where I will carry out this work, because I don't want and I cannot give them to other people, because I thought that most often the work is done poorly. Since I will be engaged in repairs and modernization in the future, I will need to develop a plan for a full cycle garage with the possibility of carrying out all the necessary works without involving other car services. But the car must be put in order before the garage is built, because the main reason for buying it is to participate in construction. Therefore, a video how I see the garage will be released much further. Firstly, I need to deal with the more pressing issues. But I will make this video when the time is right, and you can see the link to it in the top right corner. Friends, I ask you to subscribe and turn on notifications about new videos on my channel. I also ask you to tell your friends about it and ask to subscribe as well if they are interested. I need this in order to get first 10,000 subscribers to have monetization from YouTube. This small financing will allow me to free a few hours a month to make more interesting content for you. I have noticed more than once that many SUV owners keep their cars in relative disarray, having problems that they do not solve since the car still performs its functions. This is especially true for old Jeeps, Jeeps that drive not around the city, Jeeps that drive off-road or are involved in the work on the site, in construction or in business. But I believe that in my case, it will be an indicator of callousness, indifference, and a superficial attitude to work. Moreover, I needed to perform its duties anytime I need, and not just drive somehow, somewhere, break down, and go for repairs. I also noticed that if people organize Jeep tours, they often treat cars carelessly. Perhaps this is due to the fact that serious daily operation requires more finances for repairs. But first of all, this is the safety of your customers, not to mention respect. In addition, this is your attitude to your earnings, since the best service costs more. And furthermore, this is your attitude toward things, machines, and tools in general. Friends, I kindly ask you to help me if my technical terminology is not 100% correct. There are lots of differences in meanings and I could be wrong sometimes, so I would appreciate your advice. I wish you to treat tools, equipment, and most importantly, life and health carefully and responsibly. I hope you enjoyed this video and look forward for the next one. It was Valeria, the Off-Road Ranch. Wish you all the best and see you soon.